Hello and welcome to The Blank Potato. This horror story is uploaded by Reddit user TroncdeNadal. If you want to learn more about the author, and if you want to see the earlier episodes, links are in the description. And the title of this story is Her Old Diary, Part 3. Before we start, I would just like to invite you to please like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you won't miss any of my future uploads. So, get comfy and let's begin. My aunt, my uncle, and I ate breakfast, gathered around the table in the kitchen, with all three of us eating in silence. Even if you had been a stranger randomly stumbling into the kitchen without the slightest idea of who we were or what was going on, you would have still been able to sense the palpable tension between us pretty clearly. As I finished eating my toast, I took a deep breath before finally deciding to break the ice. "We need to talk about Kylie," I uttered. We returned to staring at each other silently for a couple of seconds before my aunt responded. "Sure, honey, if only Kylie could see you all grown up," she said as she shed a few tears. "We can talk about what happened if that's what you want, even though I'm not sure what we can tell you that you didn't already know," my uncle added. "Then why didn't you tell me about the fact I was there?" I stoutly asked. Once again, they stayed silent. Judging by their stare, it was clear they were not expecting that question. "I was there the week Kylie vanished. My parents were on a trip, and I stayed at your house as a baby, alongside Kylie. I know this because I found her old diary in her room. I've read it all except for a few pages that are missing. Why did no one in my family ever tell me about this?" I continued my interrogation, raising my voice to make it clear I was not joking around. "You were just a baby. We thought that learning about it would be too traumatic for you. And since you had no memories of it anyways, we figured it would be best to omit that detail," my uncle answered once they realized I was going to stop at nothing to find out the truth. "But I'm not a baby anymore. I have the right to find out what truly happened. Oh, and the fact you call a detail is much more than that. Kylie wrote about the time she spent with me. She wrote about that doll that she named after myself. I don't know how or why, but that thing wants something from me. It has wanted something from me ever since I was a baby, and Kylie knew and tried to protect me." "Hold on, Jane, you're taking this too far. Are you suggesting that a simple doll is responsible for my daughter's disappearance?" my aunt asked. "I'm not suggesting it. I'm sure of it. And Kylie, she might not be the same, but she's not entirely gone. That doll has gotten a hold of her. I've seen her. I've seen her firsthand what happens in her room every night," I exclaimed. "Oh, look at the time. You'd better get going or else you'll be late to college," my uncle said as he forcefully put an end to the conversation. "Wait, you can't keep the truth away from me," I protested. But it was no use. My aunt and uncle refused to keep talking and practically dragged me outside of the house. I skipped the last 2 lectures of college and returned to my uncle's home earlier than usual. As I expected, my aunt and uncle hadn't arrived home yet. Great. They gave me some time to continue investigating without being disturbed. It had become evident that my aunt and uncle weren't too fond of me looking into Kylie's disappearance and finding out about things that were never intended for me to know about. That accursed Jane doll was the one behind everything. I had no doubt about it. No matter how much my aunt and uncle tried to deny it, I'm gonna be honest. After what happened on my first night spent sleeping in Kylie's room, I originally thought that Jane the doll was haunted by Kylie. But while that assumption turned to be partially correct, I was now sure it wasn't the whole picture. Yes, it had become apparent that Kylie's spirit had somehow become attached to that doll. But Kylie herself wasn't the one in control. The doll was the one pulling the strings, holding Kylie against her will. Indeed, Kylie's diary confirmed that doll was already alive before Kylie disappeared, or rather, before the doll took her over. If I wanted all of this to end, I had to destroy that damn doll. I climbed the staircase and confidently marched towards Kylie's bedroom, ready to grab that Jane doll, bring her to the fireplace in the living room, and letting her be consumed by the flames. But as I stepped foot inside the room, I realized that the doll was not there. And not only that, but there were no signs of Kylie's diary either. After scouring Kylie's room in search of the doll and the diary without success, I headed across the hallway to the first place that came to my mind: my uncle and aunt's bedroom. There was nothing of importance under the bed, or at their nightstand, or inside their multiple drawers and closets, but I knew they had to be somewhere in that room. Where else could they possibly be? Who else have been interested in hiding the doll and the diary away from me? Especially after I had explicitly told them I had an interest in those artifacts earlier that morning. I swung open a large wardrobe. At first glance, it seemed to serve no other purpose than to store my aunt's extensive collection of fur coats and scarves. But upon closer inspection, it became clear that there was something else. A small object discreetly tucked at the bottom of the wardrobe, hidden behind the dense row of bulky clothes. I stretched my arms and pulled the mysterious object out of the wardrobe, revealing a dusty wooden box. I opened it without hesitation, smiling of satisfaction as I glanced at its contents: the Jane doll, Kylie's diary, and something else. A pair of pages with something written on them, which looked all too familiar. December 31st, 2005. Dear Diary, I've done it. It's the last day of the year, and me and baby Jane will be spending it together. I don't care about what mommy and daddy say. I've locked myself in my room with baby Jane right after having dinner. But we're not going to sleep. She's supposed to be at mommy and daddy's room, but I've swapped her for Jane the doll so I can protect her. Baby Jane makes it hard to focus on writing this because she's sitting on my lap right now, being the cutest thing I've ever seen. Oh, she just smiled at me. Focus, Kylie, focus. So, anyways, Jane the doll is at mommy and daddy's room, but I know she'll try to come for us tonight. That's why I've locked the door. I will not let her harm baby Jane, no matter what. January 1st, 2006. Dear Diary, it's early in the morning. Baby Jane and I are doing our best to hold out. Jane the doll has been trying to get in for hours. All I can hear is banging and more banging. It's so loud it makes poor baby Jane cry. But mommy and daddy are still sleeping in their room. Don't be afraid, baby Jane. If that doll wants to get you, she'll have to go through the door. And if she manages to do that, she'll have to go through me. Wait, the banging has stopped. I can hear Jane the doll going away. Yes, she's going back to mommy and daddy's room. Oh wait, I forgot there were more keys in mommy and daddy's room. Before I had enough time to process those 2 diary entries, I was shaking by the sound of footsteps. It sounded like someone was climbing the stairs. I tried to put everything inside the box and to hide it away for the last second, but it was too late. My aunt and uncle walked into the room, catching me off guard. We expected you'd find this eventually. I guess there's no need to keep pretending at this point. It's best for us to tell you everything, so we can start getting things done, my uncle said in a serious tone. Yes, forgive us, Jane, but we have to tell you. He told us it's the only way, my aunt added as she pointed at the doll. What? What are you talking about? What do you want to do? I asked as my body started trembling in fear. You see, when that doll took our daughter, that fateful January night over 17 years ago, the one it was truly after was you, but Kylie would stop at nothing to protect you, and she put herself in between you and the doll, and so the doll seized our beloved child, holding her spirit hostage for years to the point she lost the ability to think rationally, and is now just angry and confused, eternally seeking to fulfill a purpose she's unaware that she already accomplished. But the doll always made us know that she was willing to give us back our daughter in exchange for the child it actually wanted, my aunt explained in tears as she picked the doll up. You can't trust that thing. Don't you see it's manipulating you? I replied, but my aunt and uncle no longer listened to reason. We could have done this years ago, but we couldn't bring ourselves to do it when you were still a child. But after all those years spent knowing that our poor daughter was suffering every single day without us being able to do anything about it, we realized there was no other choice," my uncle said as he began advancing towards me. His limp gave me time to get back away, but there wasn't anything else I could do. My uncle grabbed me by the neck and immobilized me as I helplessly struggled to liberate myself. "Forgive us, Jane, forgive us," he uttered as I slowly lost consciousness. As I gradually came to my senses, I glanced at the Jane doll, which was sitting on the floor mere inches away from my face as a blurry figure materialized right next to it. Kylie. My parents watched in awe from a few feet away as I broke into tears. Never having cried so hard in my entire life, it was then when something snapped in Kylie as she heard my tears. "The baby, the baby, the baby!" Kylie yelled as she grabbed the Jane doll with rage and began ripping it apart. She then walked towards me, gently wiping away my tears with her hands. "Baby Jane," she whispered. Our daughter's back," my aunt and uncle uttered in awe. But Kylie turned back and approached my uncle visibly enraged. My uncle and aunt were so shocked by that reaction, they were initially going to hug her, but decided to slowly back away. "What's the matter, dear?" they asked, but Kylie responded by aggressively lunging herself at the one she caught up to first. My uncle, who tripped and fell down the stairs, hitting his head and dying instantly. My aunt, overwhelmed by the current situation, attempted to jump down the balcony to end it all, but I was able to intercept her and retain her in the bedroom until the police arrived. Kylie and I hugged each other in a long embrace that felt so intense and emotional. It was almost as if we were trying to make up for all the hugs we missed when I was growing up. "You're not a baby anymore. I like that," Kylie murmured before finally fading away. After my aunt got arrested for having assaulted me and held me hostage, the house was emptied out and sold to another family. Kylie's diary was the only thing I managed to keep for myself. "Hey, how was your day? I've heard about what happened with your aunt and uncle," Cindy asked. "Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm glad this mess has been resolved once and for all," I replied as I was trying to follow the teacher's lecture. It was then when I saw two of my classmates checking something on a computer. It was a listing for an old doll that was being sold online. It was in very bad shape and looked to have been crudely sewn back together and reassembled with stitches. The listing read, "Jane's a doll. Warning. Vintage doll found at a crime scene. Said to have been haunted. Buy at your own risk." If you enjoyed that horror story, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to see the previous episodes of this story, click the videos right here. And as usual, I'll see you again next time. You have a creepy evening.